Hey, what's going on there? I'm gonna try to make this as brief as possible in order to not bore people because I feel that the subject of this video is something that I actually wish people would listen to. I usually don't really care. People don't stay in these videos for too long, but I feel that this one time, alongside another video that I made talking about ego, can actually be worth it for more than one people. You are not gonna find anybody else talking about the subjects that I talk in the way that I do. That's for I guarantee you. This one and that other one that I made, I feel can be useful for people. First time ever in my channel, I actually asked you to give me this amount of time. If I can't keep your attention in this video, that's okay. Then that means that's my fault. And now you know, if you get another recommendation, just don't watch. That's it. Okay, now let's start talking about the truth. So, truthfully, what exactly is the truth? There's no truth. Truth is relative. It's actually a construct based on... Listen, there is actually the truth in everything. No matter what, you can always find the truth. And it's very important to find it, especially in a social climate as the one that we live in right now. It's very important to find the truth. You can always argue it one way or another. You can always transform it, argue it, and manifest it in any way that you want, based on your own necessities and skill. But don't be confused. The fact that it's malleable, that's the beauty of it, that's the fact that it's malleable doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, or that there is not one thing that you can consider the truth. So, how can we define the truth? What makes the truth the truth? Well, personally, I have concluded on a little set of guidance that has proven to be the most effective in my case for me to find the truth in things and make my decisions based on those guidance. I always try to have those guidance in mind whenever trying to make a judgment for something, and things have actually been better for me. I have found myself on a better mindset and a more balanced approach to pretty much everything that I do. So that's why I'm doing this right now. I feel this could be interesting for somebody else. So as I was saying, let's go for the gory details and try to dissect this thing and look in there. The truth. I have concluded on 3 steps in order to come upon what you could call the truth in things. 1. The truth for you. 2. The truth others tell you. And 3. The truth that is. Okay, cool. So, what are the gory details, you may ask, and I may answer. The truth for you. The technical truth, because you have seen it and testified from your own point of view. 2. The truth others tell you. Now this is the most complicated one. The acceptable truth. The acceptable truth tends to be the truth that you learn from others outside of your own point of view, and is the one you can end up finding acceptable because it's the version of the truth spread out in mass by circles of people. Circles of people with variable group interests depending on the circle itself. And since everybody in the circle is its own mind, keeping that truth coherent in one track becomes more and more difficult as the circle grows in size. Keeping that truth coherent in one track becomes more and more difficult as the circle grows in size, which is important to increase the validation of that truth and keep it sustainable. Therefore, the key identifiable aspect of it, or in any case, one of the key most immediate identifiable aspects of it, and that is social pressure. Social pressure to accept it with as less verification or argument as possible, which is an exercise that works in us because us humans are a species that, as pretty much every species that I can think of, has one very defining characteristic that we prefer to save energy and secure resources any way that we can, and our brain is always looking for ways to do that, and doing precisely that is more effective if you're in a group. Mainly for us mammals, we need to be in groups for the most part. A group that has those resources. And by the way, by resources, I mean a lot of things. Resources can mean anything depending on the person. The resources can be as complex as the person itself. Here, let's explain that. The stability and complexity of the environment that person inhabits influences directly the standard for what that person considers resources. That those resources can go from the very basic food and shelter to more abstract, complex, or even artificial forms of resources. A good example being the term first world problems and stuff like that. You hear that all the time. That's a very good example of more complicated, more abstract and artificial resources that archetype of person usually needs because they have everything else. They have so much commodity that. Oh, okay, I'm gonna explain more in a minute. When those very basic resources such as shelter, food, commodity, health, all of that every person needs have been so far fulfilled that the very notion of a need to prioritize them has been long forgotten to a point where you don't even have a notion of those things being a need anymore. You take them for granted. Your brain is still working on the same instinctive level. It is still working and it is still looking to prioritize other things further and further, more personalized and abstract and even artificial. In that instinct that your brain has to expand the range of defense against things threatening you. Your notion of a threat may not be hunger or a wild animal or danger outside of your shelter or even not having a shelter or you name it. That might be long forgotten as a threat. But if your brain has those things covered, it's gonna want to go to the next level of keeping you safe. For example, your brain might have forgotten to be afraid of dying of cold, for example, of extreme cold or hunger. But for example, it can learn to be afraid of not having Wi-Fi the next day because you have learned to get extremely anxious and dependent on social media. Shit like that. Your brain activates defense systems in accordance to how things affect you. As I said, it's all about how further your necessities have been covered. You're always gonna worry about something else. And when that is covered, you're always gonna worry about something else. You're always gonna worry about something else and something else. You're always going to focus on something else. Further and further and further away from you, making your comfort bubble even wider and wider and wider. Your safety bubble wider and wider and wider. Where the enemies, the monsters attacking you, are not tigers anymore or snakes or wolves or elephants or lightning or hunger or poison or something like that. There's start to become more materialistic things or moral things or ideal things or whatever. That does bring to the table the importance of giving proper, balanced, unbiased, mentally stable, informed formation for people, especially kids, because the things you learn the earliest in your life is what makes you as a grown up for the most part. Example. Yeah, we need an example because you may say, well, what is all that crap you said has to do with the truth? You may say, whoa, what does that have to do with the truth, my lad? You took it to a different place. You did? So it is? And I'll say, no. Here. Alright, think of this. Abandoning your own power of criteria because the biggest group in your town is pushing that idea that trees are blue. Yes, trees are blue. Did you know that trees are actually blue? They start fucking saying trees are blue. All trees. Every fucking tree. Just every fucking tree you see everywhere around you. In the park. And the fucking in front of your fucking house. Every fucking tree. It's actually blue. Motherfucker. blue. Their argument to that is that to make green, you need to combine yellow and blue. And blue is the correct color because the sky is blue. The ocean is blue, Blastoise is blue, and yellow is a sinful, improper color because urine is yellow, and green is a social construct imposed on you by the old ideas of yellowish people, and blue is the only true, correct, sacred color that has stayed in the shadows for too much, too long, and the ones who see trees as green as are the faulty ones, the problematic ones, yeah, the toxic ones, the infidel ones. In that case, you can stand up and say, well, I'm tetrachromatic or something like that. And I've always seen the kind of purple. It's a bird thing. I can't help it, really. Or you can say, no, bullshit. Trees are green. Everybody knows that they are green. You may find other species with different color and all. Maybe, I don't know. But trees are fucking green, and they always have been. Our eyes are designed to detect a color spectrum that includes green. Green is real. And when it comes to leaves, it is the natural color for our human eyes to detect in the way that they are designed. And if my eyes see green and I choose to believe it's blue, it doesn't make it blue. It's still green. Or you can say, yes, they are blue. Forget about green. Take me under your wing, mighty blueies. Provide me with your group safety and acceptance. You were talking about some resources you promised? Let me have some of those, oh mighty blueies. All who oppose the mighty blueies shall perish. I'll bring you greenies for you to sacrifice in exchange for those good resources you promised. Watch me. The truth in all this is that leaves have melanin and components that make it green in reaction with the radiation of the light and our sense of adapted sight, which makes us all greenies, in exception of anatomical disruption, like for example that daltonism or whatever. And you can say that you can replace eyes with cyber implants to make you see trees blue or yellow or pink or invisible, or see a 1974 Mustang instead of a tree, or oh yeah. But in answer to that, you can argue, why do you even need to see a pink tree or a 1974 Mustang instead of a tree at all? We can just keep seeing trees green, period, and maybe have an external tool that can fix your eye if you can't see anymore, or if that daltonic person wants to see green, you can have a tool that can make them choose to be able to see green if they want. I mean, I don't personally think things like that need to be quote unquote fixed, changing the human design or anything like that. They don't need to be corrected, manipulating DNA or shit, or making the person something else that is not even a person anymore, or simply change their eye to have something else, quote unquote, better, I guess. I mean, Daltonism and things of that nature can be very useful in arts and so many other things, and simply in ways that you can learn how to perceive the world. I'm dyslexic. That has made me struggle a lot in life, but simply because the world is not designed dyslexic, that it doesn't mean that it necessarily should be, and it doesn't mean that now that I'm in my 30s that I wish I would have been born non-dyslexic, because I see ways differently from most people that I know. I have learned things differently. I process things differently, and that, I think, is the main influence on why I'm even doing this at all, and I even do things the way I do them at all, and I like it. Now that I have learned the ways of how I can exploit that, I have learned that it has become kind of a blessing for me. I don't want people to give me a prize or compensation or anything like that. I don't want the world to be shaped in my comfort anymore or anything like that. I just want to do my thing, you know? You can always just have an external tool that can help if you want that help. It's all about putting your vanity aside. Your vanity aside, not your ego, your vanity. I made a whole video about that. Remove your own personal beliefs, called being unbiased, and put every information that you receive from others on hold. It's called being a skeptic. And take in consideration that regardless of how much you know, you can still be wrong in some way. Allow that receptive flexibility of mind that you were born with and you start to lose as you grow up. Well, permit that to process information alongside the other two tools that I said. Let it gather that information and analyze it from the point of view of the receiver, you, the giver, the others, and the source. It's called being open-minded. A lot of times the source is difficult to get a hold of. Sometimes the source is unknown or too difficult to grasp. But in between the other two, there's always a middle ground there that you can complement with as much as you know from the source, and then you get the closest approximate ever to the truth. We are all divided by ego and vanity, and the more we ignore one aspect, the other one prevails and overtakes our psyche. In order to be able to find the truth on things, security is very important. Security stems from your ego. Whenever you are secure and not just delirious, you are aware of your capacities and limitations, as well as of your strengths. That awareness allows you to accept when you make mistakes, because people always notice when they make mistakes, but that security allows you to own your mistakes, accept it, face them, and not have your integrity threatened by looking to different approaches. For example, a different version of something that you believed, the point of view of somebody else, facts that you didn't know or you weren't considering. When you are sure of yourself, you can ignore the stubbornness of vanity. Stubbornness stems from vanity. When you are stubborn, you are denying any other mindset that is not the predetermined mindset that you already had, that you already decided upon yourself. You are inflexible, unwilling to grow and learn, unwilling to change. So you decide on one idea and you dwell upon it. Use it as a shield, a mask of security, but not true security. Dwelling and dwelling and dwelling too much on it makes you start to convince yourself on it, which makes you delirious of being right, delirious of self-righteousness. That is why it's very important to break the walls of that little box as soon as possible, because the bigger those walls you build, the more costly it's gonna be for you to accept the mistake that you see but you don't accept it. And that makes you afraid. There's not a single thing I can think on the top of my head that can come good for living afraid, but let's leave it at that. The thing here is that negationism emerges. Negationism also stems from vanity. All those points I just made, stubbornness, fear, that makes you negationist. You need to deny the truth at all cost. People with security do not negate things. They point out the truth. Negationist people are going to deny, block, and cancel any point, any argument, any truth without argument, regardless of facts. People with real security point out the arguments, the facts closest to the truth according to their capacity of understanding it or the resources that they have, whatever they have in mind. It can be easy to get them mixed up if you have an untrained eye, but there is actual differences. Negationist people become aggressive towards facts that can challenge their own delirious. Secure people are respectful of others' opinion, but they're going to counter argue you with actual facts as far as they have the ability to do so, which gives them conviction because eventually you get closer and closer to the truth against stubbornness and negationism, which makes you conformist. Conformist people just settle on one version that has established convenient for them for whatever reason, they'll just stick by it. It's all very primitive. It's in our brain. The whole vain mindset of I am right because I have to be right is a resort you can take because it's easier. It's a way to try to save energy and resources. It's less risky to go with a current that has resources that you want and just stay thinking in a box. Nowadays, you see a lot of vanity, stubbornness being portrayed as innovative, as brave, or risky. Well, in reality, it's not. There's a lot to talk about that. But, for example, it's not risky or brave or innovative to take the narrative that every mass media, every government, every company, every major company is pushing, that is artificially portrayed as the truth, and they give it a twist to make it look like lies are truth. And if you take part of that lie, you're brave or innovative or risky, but you're not because you're conforming and you're becoming stubborn. You're fitting into vanity. It's not innovative or forward thinking or brave to invest $10,000 on an NFT when you know it is fitting into a movement that is pandering to vanity and long term detriment to the entire society. A branch of a movement that is stepping into the abolition of privacy, identity, your humanity itself, transhumanism. But I mean, that's a subject that I could just stay too long talking about that. Maybe I should later, but not right now. That is a whole other fucking bag. In short terms, it's not forward thinking really. It's artificial forward thinking. You're thinking on short term results. Why? Because you're looking only as far as you can see. You might say, I'm thinking long term because this might be a thing for years to come. But that is looking only as far as you can see in your own range inside of your own bubble. That stems from vanity. It is stubborn. It has to work. In your mind, it works because it has to work. Because if it doesn't work, I am wrong. And if I am wrong, I have to face my mistakes. I have to face the truth. So it has to be the future. It has to be here to stay. And you are the one who are not supposed to get it. And it doesn't matter if future generations have to pay for the mistakes being done right now. You already invested a lot of resources into it, and now it has to work. It doesn't matter if it's useless and detrimental. As long as you gain something, you can become negationist about all the points against it. You can conform to it, you can just attack whoever doesn't agree with you. You don't have to listen to reason because it just makes you look good. It's trendy and flashy, and they planted it in a promising way. That's enough. Follow the flow. It's easier. It's not innovative when you're just perpetuating the same old tired economical system with a different mask. But you know what they say? The devil can't create; it can only manipulate. But that's another story. That's another topic. But well, I think that's it. I think I said what I needed to say. I feel really happy and relieved that I took it out of my chest. I was able to put it in somewhat of a hopefully coherent way because one thing is to learn those approaches, those ideas, whatever, and another thing is to put them in practice, and another thing is to explain. I think for me that's the most difficult part, to explain those things. I learn things for myself, but it's more difficult for me to explain them. And I hope that I was able to do this. I feel satisfied. It's fulfilling and it's fun. It's rewarding. And that was my goal here. And I hope to shut up because I said that I was gonna try to make this as brief as possible, and I need to shut up now. Yeah, bye.